What's up, everybody? This is Fred from One Byte at a Time with another Thunkable micro tutorial. Today's topic, Firebase Real-Time Databases. Thunkable has removed the real-time database component from their platform in favor of cloud variables, which are much easier to work with, but still somewhat of an extensive topic. Not super complicated, but a lot of moving parts. Because of this, I have decided to break this topic up into several smaller micro tutorials, the first of which will focus on utilizing Firebase's authentication features. We'll set up the Firebase account, associate our app with the Firebase account, register new users, log in already registered users, and lastly, log them out. Enough talk, let's get to work. The first step is we need to create a Firebase project. So let's go ahead. This is assuming that you already have a Google account. So if you don't have one, go ahead and set one up now. So let's go ahead and navigate to Firebase, google.com. This nice little button here, get started. Let's go ahead and click that. Let's go ahead and add a project. What are we going to call this project? We're going to call this the Firebase Tut. Continue. We don't need analytics for this project, and let's go ahead and create this project. While this creates, let's go ahead and create our Thunkable project. So let's go ahead and project name is going to be Firebase Tut, and everything else accepted. Let's go ahead and create that. Let's go back to Firebase. Your new project is ready, so let's go ahead and continue. First thing we need to do is enable authentication. So let's go ahead and go to the authentication menu selection. Click Get Started. We only need the email and password for this project, so let's just go ahead and enable this. And I don't want to get into this email link passwordless sign-in for now, so let's just go ahead and enable it and leave the other one disabled. With that being done, let's go ahead and fire up the real-time database. Next. We're going to accept this the way it is for now, but I'm going to go back and change those in a second so we can sit there and develop using this database. This will give us complete access to the database whether we're logged in or not. It's just for development purposes. At the end of this project, we'll go ahead and change that to something different, so it's truly secured. And this is what this is telling us. Your security rules are defined as public, so anyone can steal, modify, or delete data in your database. That's fine. Let's go ahead and dismiss that warning. And there we go. Our database is created. Let's go into settings. We need to get some parameters so we can hook this into our Thunkable app. So let's go to project settings. First thing I want to do is change the public facing name. We're going to just change this to Firebase Tut. Save it. Let's go ahead and create a register a web app. That's all we really need to do. Let's go ahead and register it. It's going to pop up some settings, and this is where the connection happens. Okay, I'm not worried about showing you you guys this stuff because I am literally going to delete this project the second I'm done. So let's go into these settings, the API key and the database URL. Those are the things we need to set this, to hook this into our Thunkable. So let's go ahead and copy this. Let's go ahead and come over here to Thunkable, into our settings. Let's scroll down So we hit our Firebase settings where it says API key. Go ahead and paste in that key. I'm just using Control C or Command C on a Mac, and Control V to paste, or Command V on a Mac. So in the database URL, we're going to do the same thing. We are going to Control C, come over here to the database URL, and Control V. There we go. That's all we need to do to associate this database with our project. With that being done, we can go ahead and actually close Firebase at this point. Probably shouldn't have done that because we're going to reopen it towards the end so we can see all these users being created. But for now, that's fine. So let's get into creating the login screens. So the first thing we're going to do is create our login screen. So we're just going to rename this to login. And on the screen, we are going to need, let's come over to our design block. We're going to need 2 inputs. So let's go ahead and drag one out. Change this name to, this is the input field, so we're going to change this name to field login email. And our hint is just going to be email. That's all we need to do. So let's go ahead and duplicate this. Drag that down. Change this to login password. Change this to password. Just in case you're curious about the naming conventions I'm using, this is an input field, so my prefix is field. This is on the login screen, so hence the login, and this is the field name, password. So, you know, whatever you use, you should try to stick to it, but feel free to use whatever you want. It's really up to you. The next thing we're going to need is 2 buttons, so we're going to drag a button out. And this button it's a button, and this is going to be the login button. So we're going to log in. We're going to change the text in it to say login. We're going to leave the font size the way it is. The button color is fine. I like my height to be 30. I like my width to be 170. And my border radius I like about 6. I don't like super round buttons. Just rounded corners is fine with me. Let's drag that to where we want it to be. And then the next thing we want to do is duplicate that because we need one more button. And drag this out. Are these center? Okay, so this button is going to be our go to register button. If we're not already registered, well, we need a way to register. So this is really just going to be a navigation button. The text in it's going to be a little different though, because we are going to say not a user, then register. As you can see, that text is a little too big for our button, but we are going to do some stuff to make it fit. I want this to be bold. This text, I am going to switch things around a bit. So we're going to copy this. Once again, Control C or Command C on a Mac. I'm going to take that to our font. Control V or Command V on a Mac. Change our font to that color. Then come back down here to the background and just set it like that. And you know what? That, I think, we are done. So let's go ahead and select the screen as a whole. Let's go ahead and duplicate this. Boom. Now that it's duplicated, this is going to be our register screen. So we register. Let's go ahead and focus this. Our email. Well, remove the one, and since this isn't the login, this is the register screen. So let's go ahead and change that to register. Let's do that on password. Take off the one. Change this to register. Do that on the button. Register. And this button is going to be changed to register. This one is going to be go to login. And this changes to already a user. And we go to login. And that's just about it for these two screens. We are going to need one more screen for now, and this is how we are actually going to log out. So let's go ahead and change this to log out. The only thing we're really going to need on this screen is a button. So let's go ahead and drag that out there. Put this in the middle. Change this button to log out. This to say log out. And let's change the corners once again to 6. There we go. Awesome. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of making this all work. Let's go into our coding blocks on the login screen. And the first thing we're going to do is get the simple one out of the way. Let's set some controls for the button go to register button. And all we're going to do on this is navigate to the register screen. Pretty simple, huh? Next thing we want to do is get the button login to work. So when the button login is clicked, what are we going to do? Well, pretty simple here. We're going to sign in. All right. We're going to sign in using the data in the field login email. So the text right here, let's go ahead and drag that out and set it there. Let's go ahead and copy this, drag it here, but this one we're going to change to the password. So when that happens, two things are going to happen. We're either going to log in or we're going to get an error back. So we do want to check that. So we need to add some control in the form of an if block. We're actually going to do an if do else block. And the first thing we want to do is make sure that there is not an error. Let's do the happy path, and let's just make sure there's not an error first. And if there isn't an error, we log in just fine. We want to navigate to the logout screen. Since that's all we're really going to be able to do right now is sign up, sign in, or log out, then our success screen at this point becomes the logout screen. So that's what we're going to do. Now, if this doesn't work, we want to tell the user it didn't work. So what we need to do is we need to set up an alert. We're actually going to set up a couple of these. But for right now, we're just going to set up a basic alert. And it's not even going to have a cancel button. And our confirmation is just going to be okay. I'm not even setting any message at this point. I'm just setting a title. So we're going to submit this. And the reason why I did it that way is because here, the alert, we are going to set the message right now. So let's go ahead and drag that out to our else block. We're going to set the message to whatever the error that is coming back. And then we are going to show that alert. So come in here and show that alert. One other thing we want to do is if the login email and login password fields are blank, well, we don't really want them to try to log in. So we need to actually create some logic in that. And in this case, we're checking if the login email and the password is blank. So we're going to drag, first thing we're going to do is we're going to drag some control out here. We're going to drag another if, do else. We're going to put that right up in here. And once again, we are going to move this up to the happy path. So, creating the logic, we're going to drag the AND block out. And the easiest way I found to check these fields to make sure there's value is just to make sure that they have their length is has value. So we're going to need to drag the greater than. Then we're going to need to drag the length of. Then we just take the field login text. Here, and we want to make sure that the length of that is greater than 0. That being done, we can duplicate that, set that up over here, change this to password, and there we go. Now, if this is correct, if these values are greater, if the lengths of these are greater than 0, then the sign-in process will run. If it's not, then we actually want to set another alert. So I'm going to come down here. We're going to grab the set alert message, set it up there, and this time we're just going to tell them exactly what we want it to say. And password cannot be blank. Boom. And then of course we want to show that. So this is all well and good. This is actually complete. I think this will work the way it is. Unfortunately, if we run this, we don't have any way of registering. We're not registered yet. So we can sit here and try to log in all we want to. We're not registered yet. So if we log in, there is no user record corresponding to this identifier. The user may have been deleted. So we need a way to sign in. So let's go to register and let's set up that screen now. So So the first thing we want to do is let's get the easy one out of the way. Let's just get the navigation back to login, working the way we want it to. Boom, and that's done. The next thing we want to do is the register button. So on the click of the register button, we want to, once again, the first thing we want to do is make sure that those the email and the password fields are not blank. So let's kind of do what we did the last time. Just drag out the end block. Drag out the greater than field register text. It's greater than, oop, wait, no. We don't want that. We want to check the length, right? So let's drag this out. Boom. Check the length of that. Make sure it's bigger than 0. And let's go ahead and copy this. Drag that over, change this to password. So, with that done, let's go ahead and go to our sign in, and this time we want to sign up. And we want to sign up with our email and our password. And if the sign up process works, we actually want to navigate back to the login screen so we can log in. Just because you're signed up doesn't mean you're logged in. We could log in immediately from here if we wanted to, but we're actually eventually going to be requiring the user to authenticate their email address. Not in this tutorial, but in the next tutorial. So we'll want them to log in using an authenticated email. So with that done, we are going to, this is the happy path. Let's do the bad path now. The sad path, if you will. Let's go ahead and set the alert. Same thing we did with the other one. Email and password cannot be blank. And we want to show that. Boom. There we go. I bet you this will work just fine. So let's go ahead and run this again. Let's go ahead and create a user. Let's go ahead and register that user. And let's go ahead and log in as that user. Log in. And look, we made it to the logout screen. This button doesn't do anything yet, but we're there. So it looks like everything's working. One thing I want to do, I should have done this before, but I didn't. Let's go ahead and drag these in the order that we want them. Same thing with this one. A lot of times I think this would be almost better to build it from the bottom up, but so you wouldn't have to do this later. But that works. Another thing I wanted to show y'all is if we try to do something, it's very hard to get this thing to say there's an error or you're not doing something right. But I wanted to show you, you get this little warning sign when you do something that's off. And if you sit there and hover over it, it kind of tells you what it is. Variable is out of scope. And what they're telling me is this error variable is out of scope. And the reason why this is out of scope is because it's not actually created. It's only created inside this happy path. So this sad path, it's not created in there. So this needs to be in the happy path in order to access that variable. So just wanted to show you that if you do get something like that, they do provide a little error message telling you that something's wrong. So for the last thing we need to do, this one is actually pretty simple. We only have one button on the screen, obviously, so we're going to do something when it's clicked. And what we want to do is really we want to sign out. So come here and sign out. And when we sign out, we want to navigate back to the login screen. Here's the problem with just doing this, though. What if they don't want to sign out? What if it's an accident? So we do actually want to show an alert. So let's go ahead and get an alert brought up. And this alert, we want to call this a confirmation, actually. And this one, we can kind of set this so it's hard-coded, if you will. So we want to confirm logout, at least for now, because we're only going to be doing this for this right now. We're not reusing this at all yet, at least this tutorial. Want to log out. So this is actually set this to yes, set this to no, and because you're actually like logging out, I want to set this to dangerous, so it's kind of gives you, this is just give you a red button instead of the blue button, so it lets you know that you're doing something that's detrimental, potentially detrimental. So let's go ahead and submit that. Now, I want to use this, so I don't need to set it at all. I just need to call it. So we're going to call it. Now, if this is confirmed, if they hit the yes, then we want to run this stuff. So we're going to put this in the then do block. So let's go ahead and fire this up one more time. Let's go ahead and run this. Let's go ahead and log in. pachydermchef@gmail.com. Go to my password. Log in. Go to log out. Perfect. Pop here. Confirm. Do you want to log out? Yes, I do. Boom. And we're back to the login screen. Just to show you what's going on the Firebase side of things. Let's go back to Firebase. Let's go to the console. Let's pull up the Firebase TUT. Go into Authentication, and you can see the one user I have here. We have a user ID. It does not show me as the administrator. It doesn't show me their passwords, and I can never get that information. So it gives me a user ID, though, and that's how I'm going to be able to later associate these people with the data that they save. But this is just for security reasons. Even I don't have access to their passwords. So that is today's tutorial. I hope it was informative. Stay tuned for the next one where we actually start creating and reading data to and from the database. So creating, we're going to be saving data to it, and then we're going to be reading it, we're going to be getting it and showing it on the screens. Thanks again.